Some will actually handle environment variables, and some will handle configuration files. And as I said, if you do them poorly, you'll become Nicolas Cage, because everyone's going to be screaming at you. But there are some tools out there to help you. The first one is Cobra. It was developed by the good folks over at Google, and it actually provides a consistent CLI that you can use, and it actually makes your command line actually command driven. So you can actually now extensively build up your application and deploy it much, much faster than you could before. The reason this is actually really handy is if you need to add features to your application, you can do it with faster iteration than you could before. So to actually get Cobra working, you literally just have to type Cobra init and the destination directory. It will set up a very basic structure for you. It will give you your main Go file, and then it will actually give you a command directory, and that command is directly related to the commands you want to run. Super simple, right? What it also gives you is a known starting point for your applications. You know where to enter, you know where to look for your commands to actually change your application when you need to. Instead of trolling through, trying to read a 200-line main file because someone hasn't broken it up nicely and then goes somewhere else, it actually structures your application and gives a little bit of boilerplating to help us get further down the line very, very quickly. You can then start adding commands. It's just, again, the command Cobra add, and it will actually start creating files for you under the command directory. Again, this is just a nice way for you to extensively add to your application without going too deep into the details just yet. But once you've got your application up and running, and you can actually run this and you'll get an output, how do you actually start providing flags to your application? And then if you want to take your application to more than one machine, you want to start delivering this application to other people, you've got to do your flags nicely, but you've got to start thinking about, am I going to put this into a Docker container? Which means I need to start providing environment variables. So this can actually be deployed in more than one application. And that is one of the 12 steps of your 12-factor application, to actually give you a way for environment variables. Because configuration files, unless you're going to give a Docker container with every configuration for every environment, and then you become intrinsically tied to those environments as well. So environment files are generally considered a nicer way forwards. And that's where the second serpent comes into play. It actually gives you a really nice way of providing your configuration across multiple environments. And it actually has a very nice structure in place as well, that it will read your configuration file first, then it will actually read environment variables, and finally your flags will actually then take the final precedence. So you don't have to worry about your ordering, the way you load your files, and Viper will also load dynamically. So if you change your configuration file, it will read that in for you and load your configuration as you go. Probably not a great practice to put in production, but when you're actually trying to develop locally, it's actually a very, very nice tool. And it means you can actually feature toggle later if you need to, without having to redeploy an entire app. So how does it happen? You literally just have to type flags, and what you're going to do is a small little demo later, so don't get too bogged down. But you can actually, that is all you need to actually set up environment variables and one flag for your application. Such a small amount of code that gives you great power right off the bat. And then you are now app ready. You can actually deploy your app with confidence, knowing that it's actually usable, and you'll get a nice consistent CLI across your applications. So now you can go get started on it. It's actually a very easy way to get started.
Simples.
Simples. So I'll actually give you a really small demo of what I actually mean by it. So if we actually start and I...
Can you zoom in?
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Whoop.
Much larger.
Much larger. Don't forget much, much larger. So if we just type Cobra in it, I'll give it a really short name, just for test. Oops, I should put it up there. Which for me is just my user directory. So if I go to this, my dev folder, if I actually now do test, you'll actually see it's created our application in our Go directory, which is our Go source. So we can actually have a look in here. We'll use Visual Studio Code to do that for us. Whoa. It's actually given us a really small structure. As you can see, we've got our main Go, which contains almost nothing, just the initial root command to execute. We'll have a command folder with our root. Now this root is a command that in itself it will provide you a descriptor of your application, but what it does give you is initialization. And this is where you'll end up. You'll have a new command file for each one of your extensible commands you want to create. So if we want to run this now, without me actually typing anything, we actually have a running application, which is actually a really handy thing for a lot of people. But let's say we actually want to say, hey, I've got a new, actually we'll do it through tools provider, why not? Good. If I do Cobra add, and let's say we want to create a new, we want to extend our application, call it hello. You can actually see we'll have a hello Go here now. This hello Go contains almost exactly the same in the root command. However, it will have a place for our commands. So even if we run this now, and I go, we just press up, you go to Go main, you'll actually see we've got an available command now called hello. We can actually run this command. And that's our command actually running now, which means that our application has all of a sudden become an extensible application. I have just added a whole new set of functionality with very, very little effort, which becomes a really nice thing to do later. And this is where things like Viper then come into play. If we actually have, we can extend our application once again. Super giant trackpad.
Yeah.
We're going all, oh, I'm actually wrong file. I have to type like Thunderbird. Hello command dot flags. We're just going to add a flag, string. I'm going to call it greeting. We're going to give it a default of world. If I do that again, I'm going to kill myself. And just a really nice little message that says, so running this, if I just run that, we can actually see we've got a flag of greeting. It will actually say what it's going to do, who we're going to say hello to. And our default is actually world. So running it, whoops, I forgot to change it. But it actually says hello world. So we can extend this a little bit more. And in our print line, do Viper dot get string greeting, which then means we can then bind our greeting to our Viper. Hello command dot flags. Oops. If we run this again, it now says hello world. if I actually put a little bit more in, let's say hello golang.
Oh, cool.
And immediately, so within just a few minutes, I've actually got an application that now has a consistent CLI that actually takes in flags, passes them nicely, and because of the interface that's there, I actually know the types I'm going to be dealing with. But then we want to take this a step further. Let's say we want to make this a Docker application. And so we can actually, with a little bit more code, and it's not much, we can set an environment prefix. Now this environment prefix is going to be uppercased for you. And if we just say, we're going to call it hello, and we can automatically load all environment variables that start with that keyword of hello now. We're going to call it automatic env. And that's it. I actually now have environment variables loaded into my application. Keep doing that. So if I actually now export hello greeting equals everyone. What do you think that's going to produce? Should produce hello everyone. So we're ready now to deploy this application into Docker or into multiple environments, and we're probably 3 minutes in, which is an awesome tool. And this is one of those things that when you see it, you kind of sit there and go, oh, that's great. But how many of you have actually sat there and made a command line parser to do these things for you? And how many of you have tried to put it into a library and then put into your next application and the application after that? At least now we have a consistent way of actually doing this for every application, which means we have help, we have completion, and we have a deployable application.
There's completion?
Yeah, they actually have completion. I haven't enabled it in this one, but you can actually have completion. So it's using the Kubernetes application, and so when you can actually do command line completion there, which is actually really handy.
Yeah, it is. I have a question.
Yeah.
I'll speak in the microphone. Does Viper comes bundled in with the Cobra?
No, they don't. They're two different go-get packages. So if we go back to our little slide, they're from the same publisher, SPF 13.
Steve Frank, yeah.
Pardon?
Steve, no, go on.
Yeah, so you just got to go get Cobra and go get Viper.
But when you generated an application, it did come with some Viper stuff through it, or is that just
No,
fresh?
that was just your impression. They are meant to work together and they're designed to work together, but you actually have to install both separately because you may not want to do the command line or the configuration. And so the great thing about Cobra is you now have that configuration throughout your application, not just in one place. Whereas if you load your applications to be command line, you then have to load them into a variable, or you have to then pass them around. And it's a bit of a hassle and it makes your code a bit of a smell, which is just a really nice way of doing it for you. And because they're validated at runtime, so if you have an application running, it's been running for a while, you can change your configuration file, and next time you read that from Viper, it's actually the new value. You're not redeploying your app, you're not even restarting your app, you're actually getting the new value straight away. I said, I don't find it very useful in production environments, but when you're doing development or even in like a dev environment, and you get, oh, I've just broke a build, you can actually feature toggle your application off and let everyone else continue their development while you go back and refactor and refix.
Anyone has questions?
Questions? No. Is it really boring or?
No, it's enlightening. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Have you used it with, so Viper supports also like console or etcd?
You can back it onto console and etcd.
Yeah, have you used it with it?
I actually haven't used it with it. I said mostly because generally console, you have to scale it and you need at least 3 of them. So most of my applications, I actually would almost say, if you're going to that level of configuration, I think you actually kind of need to think about your application a little bit more. I can see how it's better than actually having configuration files and things like that, but the only reason I don't do it is because it does it at runtime, so you're going to be taking a little bit of a hit in terms of performance going out and in. So I generally try and steer away from it. I'll try and keep it within the application.
Oh, the one at the back. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah.
Can it handle like the standard flag package style of a single dash and automatically generate code for that? Is that customizable in any way?
So he basically is asking, the convention is for a dash dash and then your flag. I actually haven't actually used it without it, to be honest. So let's try it.
Yeah, it does work with one dash.
I mean, it works with dash H, so I don't think it would have worked for that. Oh, it's shorthand. Unknown shorthand. Gene's ready. So.
You need support in the code.
Yeah, I'll probably have to support it in the code. Yeah, but it should be there. So you can provide shorthand syntax. Yeah.
Anyone
Awesome.
else? Questions? Alright.
So yeah, just really short thing. Hope you guys actually pick it up and use it. It is a really great little tool just for getting your apps ready for deployment.
Anyone has anything else? Cool.
No, awesome.
Jeff.
Thank you.
Experience reports?
Yeah.
No. But I'm going to ask if they're interested in doing experience reports. Anyone who's interested in doing experience reports? Anyone has any experience reports?